everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer. Welcome to the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where I check off a movie from my insanely wild watch list full of feature films and documentaries and animated film shorts. It could be a short documentary animated flick. It might be on there. But we play some movie roulette and figure out a random film for my watch list to talk about. And sometimes I have a guest, and sometimes that guest is my buddy Luke. Luke, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me again, and I'm always happy to be here.
And I think this will probably be consistent. So, but let's do this. We have The Bitter Tea of General Yen, which was released January 6th, 1933. This 87-minute film is directed by Frank Capra, based on a 1930 novel of the same name by Grace Zaring Stone, starring Barbara Stanwyck, Nils Asther, and Walter Connolly, a Christian missionary in Shanghai during Chinese Civil War. So this is the first film to deal with one of the first films to deal with an interracial attraction on film.
Yep.
Box office failure, has received much more praise in the 21st century, which
Mm-hmm.
I find interesting, but we'll
Mm-hmm.
get to that in a minute. I can see where some aspects of this film have gotten more praise recently. Some others, like the yellow face, I'm sure has not gotten more praise
Yeah.
since then. Um, which is interesting because the novel was a philosophical dynamic. It was not a romance. There was no relationship between this missionary and General Yen. It was
Mm-hmm.
more them having a debate. Like this is like the novel apparently was like The Heretic of 1930,
Okay.
where it's just a bunch of theological clashing,
Mm-hmm.
except it wasn't an atheist and Mormons. It was, you know, the Chinese cultural perspective versus Christian missionaries.
Yep.
This supposedly was a film that Capra was gunning for an Oscar. Like he made
Oh
this
yeah.
movie because he thought he would win an Oscar for this. Shot with a silk stocking over the lenses to create a dreamlike effect, which is very interesting and noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Much more artful than most Capra efforts. He was trying to do more crafty, artful things as a director. And this had a $1 million budget, which was one of Capra's smallest budgets he was ever given for a studio film.
Wow.
Yep. And that's some setup there. But Luke, what are your thoughts on The Bitter Tea of General Yen?
Nothing controversial about this movie. Loved it. No. So
Nothing at all.
nothing at all. Nothing we can nitpick on. No. No. Okay. So I think it's a pretty great or slash good movie with some questionable elements, but underneath all that, there is a surprisingly great story. There is surprisingly daring for the time,
Yep.
and I'll have to use my patented sentence. In its racism, it is weirdly progressive. Where
What's that's the thing, because like this is about a white woman and a Chinese man falling in love,
who's not Chinese, who's played by a
except
Dutch person.
except the Chinese person is played by a Dutch man in yellowface. So like
Yes,
it
yes.
couldn't be that progressive in 1933 to have an actual Chinese actor falling in love with
Mm-hmm.
a woman on the screen. So yes, oddly enough, in its racist portrayal, it did capture something progressive and
And
meaningful.
not even the portrayal, like the way how they talk about the Chinese people.
Yep.
They use the term Oriental, which
Yes.
obviously we do not really use. I don't
Yes.
think it's offensive, but I don't think it's used, right? But another thing is, like, they also are not even weirdly, they are kind of saying, "Oh, look at us, we are the proper ones, and these are the savages," right? Right? Because they are the
Yep.
Christian missionaries. But even in that, like in that kind of racism, you can tell their characters are weird, like already like feeling maybe we're not the good guys here. Like there's a scene in the beginning, right, with the with a, I guess, a pastor or a priest, whatever the fuck, I don't know.
Mm.
But he says, "Oh, we came here 50 years ago, me and my wife. I don't know if it was worth it. I don't know." Or he like questions the way he says this one sentence is like he questions whether they are doing the right thing. And I thought
Yeah.
for 1930s, interesting. And then we see, I love the shot of when she's on a train and like you can tell how he lusts for her, and a
Mm.
melee character who's also, by the way, Japanese woman playing Chinese. So at least we have the Asian
At
right, but we
least,
don't have the.
at least it's closer. I guess
It's
that's the
close
best thing that
enough.
you could say.
Yes, it's close enough. At least we are in the Asian territory. We are not in a Chinese territory, but hey, it's a 1930s movie from Hollywood.
Yes.
It's you. Unfortunately, we're not apologizing them, but it is what it is. It was what it was at the time. That's not an apology. That's just a fact.
Yes.
But like,
They were not going to cast an actual Chinese actor in this movie in
what are you?
1932.
You're joking. You're joking, Shane. Why would they cast? Like, they have a perfectly fine Dutch person here, right? Like, he needs to eat.
They have a perfectly bankable Dutch actor and
Yes.
makeup here. Why would we cast an actual
Yes.
Chinese
Think of the
man?
makeup crew. They need to eat too. Okay. No, but okay. My dumb jokes aside,
Well,
there's a
just
sequence.
one more quick aside to that. Can you imagine if that was the argument for all these years? It's like
I'm sure.
the makeup people need to eat too.
I'm sure somebody must have used that argument. If I'm dumb, I'm not that smart. If I can think of it, somebody smarter than
Okay,
me must have thought of it. Like, like I'm not that smart.
okay,
But
there you
like
go.
there is a sequence on that train where you can just with no words, you can tell he really likes her and she is not comfortable, so she covers herself up, and it's witnessed by Mei Li, the character of Chinese played by a Japanese actress. And that sets the whole dynamic, that whole like triangle, moving on. And I really appreciated or liked that fact. And I liked how there are some sneaky good things about this movie, but the yet again it's one of those the elements of the movie are much better than its overall package. I would say the overall movie it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's excellent,
Yeah.
but I would say definitely shameless plug for Shane's podcast number 5610, I believe, maybe 11, Cinematic Wasteland. When we are now watching 1920 movies
Yes.
and how they are shot, and this is only 10 years
Yes.
after. And it resembles much closely to what we are used to now. That technique, that, like something, like I think I just picked up on it because of, being part of your podcast.
Mhm.
I like it definitely resembles a movie, and I think that's why it's more revered nowadays. It definitely resembles something that could be made today. There are like close-ups, there's like medium shots. The camera is not just static, and doesn't just
Yeah.
is there. So and Frank Capra is trying to do there's a dream sequence with a
Yes. Which
creepy stuff.
which is it racist? Is the film racist if the dream sequence is a racist person's nightmare version of an Asian person? Because that's the thing, because that's exactly what it's supposed to be. She's
Yes,
afraid of him and she's projecting, and it's made very clear she is prejudiced from the
isn't it?
beginning of this movie.
Like she's afraid of it in the beginning, but isn't that dream sequence? Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading into it. But I thought the dream sequence was like subconsciously she's afraid of how that she's falling for him. Because even
Well,
in that dream, she's falling for him, even though he looks like a
well,
kind of vampire.
well, I think that the idea is like she's afraid that she's falling for this
Yes, yes,
because she's not quite over the fact that he is a Chinese man,
correct.
but she's catching feelings.
Yes.
And like that sequence is really well shot. It's interestingly shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like the how it's visually created, it looks like a dream.
Yeah.
And all the makeup and everything they do to him makes him look ghoulish on purpose because
Yes.
she like That's the version of him that she sees through her hate.
Or not even sees. I think that's the version she was taught to be afraid of, because
Yeah.
racism is not natural, it's learned.
Yes.
This is,
So
there's been studies and there's been experiments. You need to learn to do that. You need to learn,
yes,
you need to see it around you and being normalized.
you have to learn how to hate.
Correct.
And she certainly learned how to hate at some
Mm-hmm.
point in her life because Megan, right off the bat, she's throwing some terms out at him when
Mm-hmm.
she first, like early on in the film, when they first
Yep.
are stuck in the situation. That dream sequence is dynamic and fascinating and
Yes.
scary, as it's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be to her.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then it's scary to us because we are her.
Yep.
That's the point. The audience is supposed to be her, and we're supposed to evolve past that.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie's only an hour and like 27 minutes. So like, does she move past that pretty quick?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. She gets decoded from her whole entire life's worth of racism because of the dick. Uh it's like, well, I'm attracted to this guy. I can't possibly be racist anymore. And that's
But
basically
let's not even bury the lead here. It
yeah.
all happens within a week. By the
Yeah.
way.
Which
By the way.
yes, this is very much a movie.
Yes.
Yes. And that's the most movie thing about this is that she is no longer racist after a week and fell in love with a Chinese man. And like, do they have an interesting dynamic?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is Nils Astler a talented actor?
Don't know.
Sure.
I haven't seen him in anything else, to be honest.
Well,
Based on this
that's
role, eh,
obviously he's playing up a specific thing here.
yes.
And this film all lead like story wise, this is the story. It's about the folly of mission work.
Yeah.
And like, are missions really doing good work? Are they
Mm-hmm.
really doing what they're supposed to be doing? And to build off of 2 points here, because so I just watched Cheyenne Autumn yesterday, my
Mm-hmm.
third to last John Ford movie. I am almost
Nice.
done this John Ford
Almost.
journey.
Almost.
Almost. And this film is so much about how the US government failed Native Americans,
Mm-hmm.
failed them with reservations, taking them off of their land, all that stuff. This movie is about the failing of mission work. I feel like trying to think about like, are they really making it's not
Oh,
as
yeah.
like is this are they really making a difference?
Yeah.
Should they be doing this? Why do you feel like your religion, your culture should be there and erase everything that was there beforehand?
Mm-hmm.
Does this film like is this the most dynamic and interesting anti-mission kind of film? I'm sure for 1932 it was. Um, like I think it does a fine job exploring those things. I think this film, for its time, does a fine job trying to explore racism
Yep.
and where that comes from. And it is a daring film for tackling an interracial relationship
Mm-hmm.
in 1932.
Yes.
It just, I feel like this film is overly simplified by the fact that like this takes place over a week and is
Mm-hmm.
only an hour and 27-minute movie. Like this
Correct.
is not a long film. You don't take a whole lot of time to really find the depth in this. It's like,
Mm.
wow, they had a few good conversations, including some at the beginning where she's still dropping really racist terminology towards him. And then you're just like, oh, okay. I think in context, this is a fine film that
Mm-hmm.
accomplishes what it's trying to do. And its themes, I think it explores in a serviceable way.
Mm-hmm.
It's just watching this in 2024, almost 2025, it's antiquated. It's
Yes.
like this is not the best approach to tackling these things, but I give it credit for doing it at the time that it did. And
I
then
was
another,
gonna. Oh, sorry,
oh, go
Anigo.
ahead.
No, 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 no. Please finish your sentence.
I'm I was probably moving on to something else.
Mm.
So if you have something to say about it, do it now.
I do have a couple of points because I think yes, like yeah, have we evolved to tackle racism and other like missionary problems? Yeah, like missionary problems. Not that kind of missionary, but different kind of missionary problems. Yes. Have we evolved past that?
Um,
Where yes,
that's
yes.
still stuff. So here's the thing. Society has not advanced past all these things
No, no,
because
no.
we've
What
been
I mean by
doing it.
that, like,
Yeah.
have we made much better movies about these
Yes.
specific, like, tackling race, tackling,
Yes.
hey, should we have sent a bunch of white people to Asia and Africa or whatever and try to introduce them to God and overtake the governments and natural resources and then fuck off and blame them? Yes, we've made much better movies about it since then, believe it or not. For 1930s, just the fact Frank Capra wanted to tackle this for whatever reason, wanting to win an Oscar, maybe.
Yes.
I think that's kind of interesting. I thought it was interesting. The fact that you said this was based on a book that's philosophical rather than like a romance, I can see the glimpses of that because I
Yes.
actually thought, because again, underneath all that racism, underneath all that, it's weirdly progressive. And then the movie, like, like halfway through reminds you, oh, you've had a wild 4 days in China, haven't you? I was like, oh, fuck, this has only been 4 days.
Yes.
I thought this is like a couple of months now where she was like imprisoned with him, right? Or by him, and I was like, oh, it's only been 4 days. What the damn, yeah, that is proper wild. The other element I wanted to bring up, and again, where I thought this movie had much more nuance than some might give it credit for, is the Melee character.
Mm.
Because I have a feeling, sneaky suspicion, nowadays a lot of things are kind of sanitized. Meaning, I have a feeling in today's day and age, she would have turned. Like Barbara Stanwyck would have turned her around and she would actually be good. But no, she understands the danger. She gets caught. Barbara
Mm.
Stanwyck pledges her life if she does it again. She sees it and then she does it again, right? And then and I feel like that was such a, like sometimes people are either desperate enough to do shit like that
Yep.
or just like evil, quote unquote, enough
Mm.
to like, no, fuck you. I'll, no matter if even if this lady dies with me, I'll still do it. And I thought it's a refreshing to see, like, sometimes people, no matter how you approach them, they will still do the shit you don't want them to do.
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting. I also did you see did you buy her Barbara Stanwyck falling for him in that 1 week?
I kind of chopped it up to movie
Yeah.
romance, which I think this film would have been a better film
Hmm.
if it was philosophical and not
Hmm.
romantic. But
I
it's
think,
a
yeah,
Hollywood movie,
it is from
so
the
they had to put a
1932.
romance in it.
I have a feeling if this is actually prime real estate for a remake, I genuinely think this could be a great, like, if you stick it closer to the book, right?
Yep.
Make it not a week, make it maybe a couple of months, and where we see her potentially have it evolving almost like the Stockholm syndrome, because she is a prisoner, really.
Yes.
So we almost see her like Stockholm prison, syndrome into kind of loving him, throughout several months, and then and have them challenge each other views, like oh, Christianity is great because of A, B, and C. No, Chinese are better because my faith is better because A, B, and C, and have them challenge each other, right? Obviously with a Chinese actor, you
Yes.
know, that's another thing.
How old is he supposed to be?
I don't think it's mentioned. I think she's supposed to be like mid 20s, 30s, and I think he's kind of maybe 40s, but I don't think it ever is mentioned. Like, the only thing that we know of him,
Because I'm
he's
trying to
wealthy.
cast in my head.
Oh,
For some reason, like I would totally cast Alicia Vikander in this
oh,
because I love her and she's not in enough things. And I
yes.
was trying to gauge like his age so I could think of somebody to cast as the general.
Or can you imagine somebody proper English, like Rebecca Hall? Keira Knightley
Yep.
or somebody like that
Mhm.
basically like give it talent. Those are
Yeah.
talented English ladies. And just, and go off, in your English accent, tell them how he's beneath you. Tell them,
Yep.
we need to have that Englishness because that obviously English missionaries, stuff like that. I would also like to mention Barbara Stanwyck because
Yep.
I thought her performance was really good. I thought she was carrying that movie. I really appreciated what she was doing. Was I buying her character falling for him the way the movie shown? I don't think it was earned. But what she did with that character, she must be up there when it comes to like proper actresses of like this early cinema. She is up there.
She's an extremely talented actor, and I'm going to be watching another film of hers for this
Oh.
show called Ball of Fire in a couple episodes. Um, she's fantastic. I think she does a great job selling
Mm-hmm.
this story and this character as much as she can
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in terms, and then it all builds up to a very dramatic moment.
Mm-hmm.
That bitter tea, and it's
Spoiler.
just like, huh?
Spoiler.
I didn't say what happened, Luke.
No, I
Um,
know. I'm just referring to it's actually named the bitter tea of, it's like I'm like movie spoilers.
spoiler, spoiler in the title, people. Um, I don't know if I bought that moment. Like, I think it's staged really well and everything from
Yes.
a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of that stuff, I just chalked up to like, yeah, this would end in like that kind of way. Of
Yes.
course it would. And that's why I didn't love this movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like I had to resign myself to just accepting that this is very Hollywood at times and just like, okay, whatever. It is what it is. This is how it played out.
And you can even tell how the movie actually ends with that, she is silent, and with his business partner, the American, has the
Yep.
long philosophical like monologue that's supposed to
Yep.
like tie it all together. And like she, maybe it will change, but who knows? And it's like this kind of typical American. Like
Yeah.
early 40s, like like big monologue. We need to finish this movie strong, so everybody gets this message.
Yeah. I if you want a movie that navigates these philosophical themes better,
Hmm. Hmm.
just watch Silence.
I still haven't watched that, so I need to watch this.
Would
Yes.
recommend. So
Oh, I
there you
would.
go. Um, I know he's a little bit older, but I'm thinking Tony Leung as a general would be interesting. Like they
Mm,
age them up a little bit.
sure, why not?
Yeah. Like, especially if we're going like Keira Knightley, because Keira Knightley's 40, right?
Yep. So obviously she's old as fuck. Yes, that's what we're saying. Yes,
Well, 40 is different than
I know.
20s.
No, and
So
For Hollywood,
for
yes,
Hollywood, Keira Knightley is now 80 and
yes,
must be taken out back soon.
she's like
Um,
grandma, like granny dolls. Like oh, granny.
I think it would be interesting with like a Keira Knightley and a Tony Leung selling this in a
Hmm.
modern context. And it's more a philosophical thing, but she becomes attracted to who, like him and what he represents,
Hmm.
and less of him becoming attracted to her. I think that would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah,
He's just like, who's this? Who's this white woman?
and
And
I genuinely believe these are the movies we should be remaking. Like
exactly ones
kind
with
of a
potential.
classic. Kind of a classic. Yeah, great potential. Exactly. The book is apparently great. I don't know. Haven't read it. There is something. There's a meat on them bones. That's what we're saying. I think there is definitely, and the filmmaking's obviously progressed, acting's progressed. We have progressed that we wouldn't put somebody in a yellow face now. So
Right.
I'm saying this could be fucking great. Like,
Yes.
and this kind of, instead of, remaking classics we all love and have seen thousands of times, why not a classic that not many people have seen and actually
Well,
introduce them to it?
when Mike, Luke, Adam, and I open the SPDM production company,
Hmm.
we're gonna bankroll this remake.
Yes.
It's gonna be a hit. It's gonna get a bunch of Oscars. They're gonna love it.
Yes.
It might not make a lot of money, but the Oscars are gonna love
We make it into a musical. That never fails.
it. um, but Luke, thank you so much for coming on and always chatting movies with me.
Anytime, mate. Always a blast.
And thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What is your favorite kind of film that explores mission work and the like that conflict between cultural and religious ideologies? Like Heretic, except with less Mormons. But make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We have a lot of great content here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network, including Luke's interview show and plenty of other shows about movies and sports and television and music and comics and physical media. So we have a lot of everything. So go check
Hmm.
it out. But also, if you like our logo, check out High Flyer Creative. They do some great work. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network.